Hello, welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. It is January 30th. So today I thought I would ask a very simple question of the cards and the universe. And the question really boils down to what's next, okay? So it's become really clear and apparent that the Republicans cannot be shamed into good behavior. They cannot be they do not seem to have the ability to use reason or common sense in figuring out how they want to vote. Like a bunch of lemmings, they are literally falling into line. Now, as I'm recording this, the question answer thing has been going on for about an hour. I have not seen it. I've been out of the house, and so I don't know exactly what's going on there. But it's starting to feel very much like a foregone conclusion that witnesses or no witnesses, the Republicans are not going to let Trump be, found guilty. They're not going to do it. And it doesn't seem to matter what tactic you use. It doesn't seem to be having any significant effect or shift. I haven't heard, the last poll I heard was 75% of Americans want witnesses and testimony. It'll be interesting to see if another poll comes out at some point today, and if that may have some impact. But honestly, these people are like, set in stone. They're just not going to buck McConnell. And frankly, it is a really sad moment in any country's history when somebody who combines dumb and stupid, mashes them together, and somehow manages to be president. Okay? It's really sad that somebody like that has the ability to so negatively impact, as a Canadian, what I would consider to be sort of the second biggest kind of grouping of powerful people in your country, which would be the senators. And he literally has bullied them to the place where they will not speak out. They will not say that green is green because they're busy saying that green is purple. Because they've been bullied and they're scared of a tweet. It's really, really a sad commentary, and it gives us some real clarity on exactly how much work needs to be put into fixing this and cleaning this mess up. And so I'm not going to go into my standard lecture about strategic voting, but one of the things that Americans, I'm sure, are considering, or should be anyways, in my opinion, is who do we vote for who's going to fix this problem? Not fix the other things in the country that desperately need to be fixed, but who is capable of taking this guy out and of using common sense to sort of start the healing process and start getting things back on track. End of my thoughts on it. Okay, so come on down. This is my question. What's next? What can we expect next? Because honestly, whether they get witnesses or not, the bottom line is the writing's on the wall. They are not going to indict him. They're not going to find him guilty. And, maybe you get one or two people who will cross, party lines, but not enough to make any significant change. So I want to know what the United States as a whole, as a country, can expect going forward as a result of what is going on in Washington, what it is going on within its political arena, what is going on with the senators who have lost the ability to be reasoned with or to think rationally or use their common sense, because they're just prepared to walk right off the cliff because that's what they just feel it has to be done and is necessary. Come on down, I have a question. Okay, so a couple more quick shuffles. And we're focusing in on what we can anticipate next in terms of this. What we want to find out is what we can anticipate after this trial is over. That's really the question. I want to see where we're sitting. And could that be as early as Saturday? Yeah. Could it be as, late as a few weeks from now? Possibly. Let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so here we go. America after the trial, America after the trial, America after the trial. And for those of you out there who feel like the goalpost keeps getting moved, you're right, it does. And the reason it keeps getting moved is because the Republicans have moved so far away from anything that would resemble an expectation of their behavior. They have just really, really lined up behind this guy. Okay, so this is what we have. We have good news for the fool, okay? And you have good news for those supporters of the fool. And however, that is going to create, on the one hand, they are going to be jumping out up and down and celebrating. Oh my God, I digress for a second. I just read on one of my news blogs that there was some Trump fan pastor, okay? So a Trump supporter who's a pastor apparently made the statement, are you ready? I hope you're sitting down because you'll fall down if you haven't heard this, that Jesus would beat the crap out of John Bolton. You heard me, for what he's doing. Yeah, what he's doing is trying to tell the truth. Okay, so what you're going to have is you're going to have one part of the country celebrating, and remember, you're talking about 20 to 25% of the country. Okay, you're not talking about 50%. You're talking about a small segment of the population who has managed literally to lasso the rest of the country into falling into what they want. They've just hijacked the whole thing. Okay, so there's going to be a lot of emotional responses and reactions. And, people, I think, are going to feel kind of almost like all is lost, okay? You're going to start feeling that it doesn't matter what you do or how you do it or how hard you work or how positive your thoughts are, that this just keeps going wrong. And there's going to be a lot of concern about what happens in the next election and exactly not only how many other countries are going to be involved in tainting those results, but how many, what is going on to somehow ensure in any way, shape, or form that the elections are safe. So the reaction and the fact that they literally are trying to elevate your current president into the position of emperor or king should terrify every single American. But it's not, because things have become so bipartisan that, if you're not with us, you're the enemy, is sort of the basic mentality that's going on there. There's going to be distress. There's going to be worry. There's going to be kind of a sense of hopelessness where, this just could not possibly get any worse. Do not give up hope. Stay strong. Stay focused. You have good news coming in terms of thinking, things that are communications. Is somebody going to step forward and put a whole new light on this? When that happens, and make no mistake, it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it happens. What it's going to do is it's going to put the Republican senators in not a bad light, a horrendous light, because some of whatever it is that's coming forward, there is going to be a sense of, listen, you Republican senators know this Trump guy better than most, and You didn't feel you needed to protect us from this. Whatever it is that's coming out, it's not going to be outlandish given the way Trump behaves. It's just going to be horrifying for everybody else. So, they're going to come under a firing squad because it's like you knew him, you knew what he was capable of, and yet you didn't stop him when you needed to stop him. So, but my point is don't lose hope, because you have been told by me, and I'm sure others, that he would survive the trial. As depressing and as sad and disillusioning as that is, we knew that he was never going to get that 67 votes to actually kick him out of office. But trust me when I say there's stuff coming down the pike, and honestly, it's not going to be awesome. So what's going to happen is you have the Knight of Cups talking about the celebration that's going to go on now. And following that, you have the Knight of Wands talking about the new information that's going to come out. And after that, you have the Page of Swords talking about the fact that when it boils right down to it, we're looking for the truth. Okay, we really are, as not only as your country, but as a world, we are just looking to find out exactly how deep and how extensive this corruption is. But ultimately, there's going to be heartbreak and there's going to be disappointment. But, it's an interesting thing because I'm sort of reading it on this side. There's going to be heartbreak and disappointment for the American people. But I'm also reading it on this side of the ledger, which is sort of the more positive Trumpian side, that they too are going to experience significant heartbreak and significant disappointment. And so, some people are going to be disappointed for a little while, and then there's going to be news coming forward, and then other people are going to be celebrating first and then stuck in a place of heartbreak, disappointment, and really trying to figure out almost how to walk away from this. More news is going to come out. There's going to be new revelations about, things he's done in the past, his money, how badly the truth has been twisted. There's going to be a lot of information coming out in the next little while. And some of it, very, very well, could be incredibly damaging to Trump. So as a country, it sort of feels like for the next while, you're going to feel like literally a pendulum that is swinging from one extreme to the other, because you're going to have people incredibly devastated, incredibly disappointed, and the other bunch of them cheering and stomping their feet and woo-hooing. And then in very short order, you're going to have those people who were sad and disappointed starting to perk up and realize that, wait a minute, all is not lost. All is not lost. And the people who were celebrating are going to be going, oh crap, we have a problem on our hands. We have a fight on our hands. And what's going to happen is there's going to be some real division taking place within the actual Republican Party, because some of those people are going to be saying, you guys, by trying to push this thing through and not have witnesses and whatever, have put me in a position where I am now in a no-win position in my state. So basically, guess what? President Trump chose to sacrifice a bunch of senators to get what he wants, because again, he doesn't have the capacity to plan strategically or long term. All Donald Trump cares about is he wants us to go away before the Super Bowl. That's it. That is the distance between now and then that he is able to think at and function at. So you're going to have a lot of infighting going on behind the scenes with the Republicans. And people are going to be saying, you sold me a false story. You sold me a false narrative. You bound my hands and made me do this, although I would take exception to that phraseology. Because if they had a spine and some guts, they certainly could do what's right. But it's going to put them in a very, very precarious situation. And honestly, more stuff is going to continue to come out. This is going to be a continual drip, drip, drip of information. And pretty soon they're actually not going to be able to keep running away from reporters and try to hide this. I don't know when it's coming, but I know it's coming relatively soon. What does that mean? Is that 3 weeks? Is that 3 months? I don't know, but I do know that this stuff at this point really does look like it's about to be made public, and it's not going to reflect well. So again, same old thing, right? You've got things that are going on behind the scenes right now. And again, whether this is with members of Congress doing continuing investigations, whether this is John Bolton's book coming out, whether this is a witness that is actually allowed to come forward and testify. But there's stuff going on behind the scenes that is really ramping up to sort of get this thing turned around and moving in a direction that frankly is for the highest good of the United States, as opposed to the highest good of the president and or certain senators and frankly certain, I guess, Congress people, the House representatives. There's an election coming up. And so there's going to be stuff that comes out that is really going to put the Republicans into a very, very defensive mode. And like I say, that infighting that goes on behind the scenes, you are going to be able to start really, really seeing those big cracks, okay, in that wall of defense. And I don't quite know why I feel this way, but I really feel as if you're going to get a sense as we move into February that Trump really has in some way separated himself from the very people he should be trying to hang on to for support. Again, why? Well, because if he's completely acquitted of all of this stuff, although that is not exonerated, but he's going to scream from the rooftops, he's been exonerated. I really just feel that you're going to start to see this division within the Republican Party. And that's also not going to sit well with Trump, and it's not going to bode well for the party. So what we have here is we have people walking away in disappointment. We're talking about the end of something and the beginning of something else. Now, literally, you could say this represents the end of the trial and the beginning of Donald Trump's real, I am an emperor crazy ruling period. But because of the way the cards are falling, what I'm going to say is ultimately you're going to have Republicans that are walking away from a sinking ship, from something that has no way of going forward. And again, this isn't the news you want to hear, but if all else fails, you have the election. And you know what? It doesn't matter how many people yell and scream and how loud Trump screams about being exonerated. People aren't stupid. And they actually are going to understand what the heck went on in those days in the Senate hearings. And it's not going to go well. What you're going to see with Trump is that he becomes more delusional. He really does. He becomes, I want to say, just erratic, incredibly unhinged, very, very aggressive. He's not going to be able to keep his thoughts in one place for long, because what's going to happen is when he is acquitted of the charges, even though he stays impeached for the rest of his life, first of all, he's going to start rewriting history and saying that's not true, because that's the story that suits him. But you're really going to see an amping up of some energies around him that honestly nobody is going to be able to explain. And there's going to be more information coming out about things that are going on with other countries and behind the scenes. And that story, whether Trump likes it or not, is going to continue to move forward because, frankly, it can't not move forward. And I just want to point something out really quickly. And I don't know if I'm the only person who sort of twigged onto this, or whether I'm giving it more importance than it should have. But that excerpt that whoever it was, the New York Times or whoever, that excerpt from Bolton's book, where he was saying literally, the president flat told me that he did not want aid released to Ukraine until Ukraine came through with the investigations and the information he was looking for against Democrats and the Boltons. everybody is sort of refining that statement to say information on the Boltons. But in the book, it says Democrats the Bidens. Sorry if I said Bolton. You know who I mean. The Boltons, the Bidens. Oh my God, Cindy. So that's interesting because it really does make one wonder if Biden doesn't end up getting the nomination, which would be Trump's, ultimate fantasy, frankly. Are some of these other countries out there actually looking on dirt for Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Pete Buttigieg, Amy Klobuchar? Like, how deep does that go? So that's just curious to me. Okay, so I think what we can tell from this is that a lot, oh my goodness, a lot of communications, a lot of information coming out, and some of that information is going to make people very defensive, and some of that information is going to almost become a burden too heavy to carry. Right now the Republicans, they see the end of the tunnel as, November, whatever, 2020, whatever the date is of the actual election. They see that as the shining white star that they're running towards. But at some point between now and then, they're going to find that the burdens are just way too heavy to carry. The information continues to come out that is not, putting them in a good light. And more of this sort of quid pro quo business is going to continue to surface. And information coming out, and it's not going to probably sit well with the Republicans. And again, you've got this sort of infighting that's going on. So I'm not getting the sense that there are going to be a great deal of civil unrest. I'm not feeling, violence in the streets. I'm not saying it's not going to happen. I'm saying it's not going to be a coast to coast kind of event. You're going to have little pockets of people. I'm sure Indivisible must have some sort of a march ready to go or in the works should he be acquitted. But what I'm saying is there's just, it doesn't feel as volatile. And isn't that sort of a sad disappointment for the evangelicals who were so hoping that this would cause a race war? And I don't even get that, right? It's not like one race loves him and one race hates him. It doesn't even make sense that they're trying to inspire a race war here so that yak, and then they can have the rapture. And just interesting, something you might want to just do as a result of the Revelations 13:5 that was mentioned in yesterday's video. I actually had a conversation last night with a really good friend of mine who's way smarter about this stuff than I am. And she was talking about Revelations versus Nostradamus and what Nostradamus said about Revelations. And of course, Revelations really is a story about how the world ends. I personally don't put a lot of faith in Revelations. I just personally don't. But for those people who really, really thought that this would bring about the rapture, I fear that they're going to be quite disappointed. Okay, final housekeeping note that I just want to take care of quick. There has been a lot of interest on this channel about pendulums and how they work and etc. For those of you who are interested in a bit fuller explanation, if you will, tomorrow on Friday, Soulprint Insights will be releasing a video on pendulums and how they work and why mine is programmed the way it is and how you can do that. So for those of you who are interested, put that maybe on your calendar tomorrow with a big red star, because that information, at least the beginnings of it, is going to be out tomorrow on that video. So thank you so much once again for all of the energy and the love and the support. And tomorrow we're going to be having a bit of a conversation about how I want to see those sort of energy circles move forward. I've given it some thought. I've done some meditation on it. So we'll tackle that tomorrow. Excuse me. Until next time, take care. Be well. We'll see you soon. Bye.